welcome to another Trader Talk TV. Today we're in the office and today we've got Mungo, Knott with us. Mungo, how are you doing?
Very good, thank you.
Yeah,
very good.
Thanks. And we're talking today about digital out of home. It's sort of an overview of that current ecosystem, what's going on. And Mungo's here to talk about what's going on with their own product down at Global. Before that, Mungo, just give a little bit of introduction to yourself and what you do at Global.
Yeah, sure. So I work at Global, and when Global entered the outdoor advertising space, I came as part of one of the companies that they purchased, PrimeSite, and my focus is on developing their connected trading systems and specifically working on the development of the DAX outdoor product to augment the DAX audio product, which has been run by Global since about 2014.
Excellent. So before we jump into sort of an overview of the product itself and what you've done since the launch last year, let's talk about the digital out of home space a little bit, because we talk about, I'll put it in inverted commas because it's a bit of a dirty word in the out of home space, but programmatic and digital out of home. It's very different from display, impression level buying, and the way it's measured and the way IDs are used. So just give us sort of an overview, please, of that sort of digital out of home ecosystem, please, in the sense of how your data-driven aspect is applied to and how it works.
Okay. Maybe if I put that in context for you, because it's an interesting area, and I'm going to use your famous whiteboard, if that's okay.
There you go. It's great to have somebody in person drawing the whiteboard again. It's great.
It's lovely to be anywhere in person, to be frank. So
yes, and we both be double job, by the way, viewers, so it's all good.
Indeed, we have, correct. So if you start over here and say effectively, what you've got here is the market itself, and over at this end, you've got the inventory that the market has, and there are two broad ways in which connected trading is currently being executed in out of home. The first is the method by which you can purchase both classic and digital. So that's your static frames as well as your digital frames, and that is broadly in a guaranteed fashion. Because you're buying classic inventory, you're booking some time in advance. You want your campaign to be up in 3 weeks' time, and you're building the elements of that campaign, and that uses Open Direct and APIs to Open Direct as the method by which that connection through to the inventory takes place. So the market makes those decisions on classic and digital and purchase them in advance. The second, and this is really the area that's been evolving and specific DAX is concerned with, is for digital only inventory. So the obvious opportunity here is to be making decisions much faster in real time or near real time to be able to get that advertisement up on a digital panel at any point in time. Because it's near real time, it's non-guaranteed. So it's an opportunity that is open to the market, and we'll talk about how that comes maybe in a moment. And we use OpenRTB as the method. So the sort of standard method by which programmatic transaction would take place. And that's a relatively recent introduction into the outdoor industry. And that allows the inventory to be purchased. So it's this area here that is where DAX specifically is focused.
Okay, so let's talk about the programmatic opportunity, right? So this is how traditionally you sold your inventory, the top layer. The second layer is the new sort of data-driven element to it. So let's just talk about this first and foremost, right? So you're integrated with a bunch of DSPs, is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
How many are you integrated at the minute with?
We've got about 12 DSPs that we're integrated with at the moment.
And then they buy on an impression level basis, or how do they typically buy this inventory? That's the thing, because we need to kind of just point out the differences between these two very different channels.
Yeah.
So how would a typical DSP buy inventory here? Just sort of walk through a process first.
Okay, I'm going to give you a, if you've got a little rubber.
Yeah, there it is behind you.
I'm going to give you a slightly different chart just to illustrate that. You see?
Just a bit of elbow grease. Give me a strong man out of this. Let's put it out.
Look, keep it going. There we are.
We just double up as the whiteboard walkout for AdTech.
There we are. Look, clean
There
slate,
you
ready
go.
to go. Lovely. Okay, so we've got a couple of areas here to talk through, if you like. The first is that we've got our inventory itself. So our inventory sits here, and that is a digital screen, which is showing a number of ads. And let's say that the common loop is 6 ads.
Okay, and that's like inventory on the tube. Is that you or
inventory on the tube, a digital billboard, screen in an airport, cinema, all of those environments.
Right. So there's these 6 sort of graphics or creatives on that. So
typically 6 advertisers on a loop playing through that digital screen.
Okay.
We'll take one of those opportunities and we'll pass that to our DAX bidding engine.
Okay.
And we will then pass that out, and if you remember, here was our market. Here are now our 12 DSPs.
Right.
Anyone who wants to access that stream of bid requests does so as they're passed out here.
Okay.
And this happens pretty much in real time.
Okay.
So they're saying, I'm about to play an ad on this screen.
Right.
Are you interested in purchasing it?
Right.
And the information that we give them in order to determine whether or not it's a screen that they want is all of the physical characteristics of that screen.
Okay.
Where it's located.
Yeah.
So a long and lat.
Yeah.
A size.
Yeah.
The type of environment that screen is in. Is it a
Yeah.
roadside screen or a screen in a shopping centre or something like that? The orientation of the screen. All of those elements that help them to know exactly what that screen is and where it is. And alongside that, we have a value, which is the audience that screen is expected to get. Now I say expected because we use Root, which is the industry audience measurement system.
Right.
And what Root does is it predicts not only the number of people who are likely to be seeing that screen or in that area, but also the likelihood of them actually to have a visual contact with that screen. So it's a good measurement, and it's used across the industry as a sort of valuation. So we pass that to the DSP and we say, here is a screen, here is that location, are you interested in purchasing it?
Okay. So are these just typical graphical display units, or do they have some video element to it as well? I'm just curious.
Some can take video. It
Right.
depends on the restrictions that are on that particular screen. So typically an indoor environment,
Right.
the underground, an airport can take video.
Right.
A roadside environment is much more restricted because there is legislation around how much moving imagery you can have on a roadside screen.
Yeah.
So again, we would pass to them what is it possible to display
Right.
on that particular screen.
So a DSP then sees the long lat, it sees
Correct.
the size of the screen, it sees the time of day, etc. So I mean, like, they're buying typically in real time. But how long does it take for a campaign to go live? So you know, there obviously has to be a creative clearance here as well. They can't just put up any kind of crap up there that you have. You're obviously bound by regulation. So how long does that process take? So I take it like, for instance, the Euro and England in the European Championships, and they might win. God save us, but they might win that championship. So, a bunch of advertisers want to take advantage of that, and surf the wave of the zeitgeist and the wave of the nation, and serve us up Coke ads and bloody whatever else crisp ads.
Yeah, celebratory ads.
Yeah,
We're gonna
absolutely.
win.
Like contextual, like Harry Kane eating a bag of chips or some
Yeah.
crap like that. But how long does it take for a campaign then to go live effectively? Is
Okay, so it's a good question. So once the DSP has said that it wants to purchase, we're effectively going to pick up a piece of creative. And if you remember back here is our inventory to our screen in order to display it. So there's a couple of, you're quite right, steps that ensure that the right creative is being appropriately put on that screen. One is that they could send us the piece of creative before they bid, so that we have had eyes on, and we will have eyes on all pieces of creative before they bid, so that we can say, yeah, we're happy with that, and only when it's been passed through will it be displayed on the screen.
Yeah.
If there were small elements within, or they wanted to make a choice in real time about which ad, they could give us the range that they were going to execute, and we could see all of that range and say, if we're happy with any of those, your decision as to which one you do, we will pass all of those as being clear.
Okay.
So we're clearing them both for making sure that they're encompassing the regulations, but also that individual screens sometimes have restrictions, and we need to make sure that we are keeping with those as well.
So talk about the measurement piece, because obviously that was always an issue with out of home. I mean, obviously it's a brilliant brand channel, but there's an element of performance of these people. Like, how are they measuring the effectiveness of these ads, and how have you managed to sort of like educate these DSPs who have been sort of, build technology to build display impression level stuff? How have you kind of like evolved that story to saying, this actually works on a brand based measurement metric? So that kind of evolution of out of home or digital out of home is quite interesting. Can you talk a little about that actually?
I mean, I think that's one of the key differences between the way that out of home is purchased and the expectations of the data that is being used to make those purchase decisions, because what you haven't got is the immediate attribution connection, which you would typically get in online display. You can't say, I'm seeing people doing something as a result of serving my ads now, and therefore I'm going to increase my pacing, or I'm going to purchase some more, or I'm going to slow down, or anything like those sorts of things. So there is a difference in the type of decisioning that is being taken here. So some examples of that might be if you've got a drink that is particularly going to be designed during hot weather, then you might be using a data source which says, okay, is the sun shining in Manchester today? And if the sun is shining in Manchester, I'm pretty sure that people are going to be thinking about purchasing my drink, and I want to persuade them to do that. Or we've done some stuff for Marks and Spencer's. I want to put my food offer out at lunchtime, and I also want to tell them that my store is only 2 miles down the road, or 100 yards down the road, whatever it is, and so give you access to them, and they can make those decisions, which, if you like, are predetermined paths to executing, but are still allowing them the flexibility to say, yes, this is the right moment, or no, it isn't. It's just not played back as a result of having seen someone in the same way that you would.
So there's a conversation to have about building this into the attribution system that actually makes sense for the brand, for the advertiser.
Correct.
Okay. Interesting. And in terms of like uptake, like there seems to be, are you seeing a shift in budget? Because obviously with deprecations, I know Google announced that they're keeping the cookie until 2023. I don't believe them, but there you go. But is that an opportunity now for digital at home? If you take out that ID, take out that cookie, right, out of the display piece, suddenly out of home, or digital out of home and display almost become equal in terms of what you can and can't do. Like, so is this a big opportunity, you think, for digital out of home when you introduce this element of data layering that you're building here, real-time decisioning, being able to apply specific data points? These DSPs will have their own independent data and bring it to the party. There's a whole new world of cash and demand that you can tap into.
I mean, absolutely. It's definitely about allowing the DSPs to determine what is the thing that wants to trigger the purchase, and we want to allow them as much flexibility in that process as possible. Outdoor has always been and continues to be a branding medium.
Yes.
Rather than a medium which is
performance driven.
Absolutely performance driven and reacts immediately. The fact that there are changes in the broader performance market, the changes you described that Google are doing, and the whole area of concern over privacy and how that's being addressed, is interesting for us because it means that marketeers have to sit back and say, okay, I know I was going down that route. Now that that route has changed a bit, do I want to reconsider perhaps where I'm putting my marketing effort? And what we're doing here is saying, here is an option that still gives you lots of flexibility, gives you the ability to make instant decisioning, which is an advantage for marketeers. And if you're going to reconsider as a result of all those changes, absolutely, we're in the position of being able to surface our inventory into the trading desks via the TSPs for you to make those instant decisions in a slightly different way than you maybe have done before.
Interesting.
But nevertheless appropriate for going forward.
Yeah. In terms of how it's affected you guys, I mean, you're talking about 20% or less of your inventory is now going into this sort of real-time ecosystem. How have you managed to kind of, keep your yields up in terms of like what you can sell and what you can't sell? For instance, like if you're selling direct and you have like 20% of your inventory just going to programmatic, if that doesn't sell, how do you just keep that revenue? Like, because obviously you work with third parties as well. Like you've got your own inventory, but you also kind of sell other inventory for publisher partners, so to speak. So how do you ensure that they are, getting the proper yield in this scenario?
Sure. And I think there's two things there. I think the first is that what we are absolutely not is a remnant inventory.
Yes, and that's important that you don't go down that route.
Correct. So we're not saying, can we sell it anywhere else? If we can't, we'll put it out here.
Yes.
We're actually making a commitment and saying, if you as a marketeer were considering programmatic out of home as a potential route to execute your plans, we will ensure there is a consistent supply of inventory that you can purchase. Now, we will put a price floor on that, which means that we are comfortable that it's appropriate to be selling at that point.
Yes.
And then you can still enter the market. We are protecting what we think is the true value of our inventory, but we are making a commitment to provide that opportunity to the market to be purchased.
Yeah.
And that's also about growing the market. It's about giving marketers the confidence that exists, because if you just turn up and actually you find there's no inventory available to even bid on, then that's not going to be a sustainable route to market for you.
And for the marketeers as well, I mean, obviously you have your traditional out-of-home, digital out-of-home buyers anyway, but are you seeing new brands coming into market? So obviously D2C brands have been very interested in out-of-home. Are you seeing those type of brands come going, oh, I love this, I have some control over this, I can build a proper attribution model on a real-time basis around this, I can switch it off, I can switch it on whenever I want? Are you seeing more of those types of advertisers coming into this market now?
We're just beginning to. I mean, this is fairly early days, and we're seeing some experimentation both by existing advertisers who are maybe looking at other elements of their budgets that weren't particularly put into out-of-home, and some new advertisers, and actually interestingly advertisers from overseas that we wouldn't have had a opportunity to talk to, finding it really easy to access.
So they're coming in via the DSPs, and there's not a whole process of like agency booking and all the rest of it. They can just literally buy when they want to buy.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's a completely new and easy way for them to access that.
How much addressable inventory do you have for programmatic? Just, I mean, like in the UK, like I take it this is mostly UK based stuff.
Yes, certainly. DAX is all UK, and we've got about 2,500 frames in our DAX at the moment. and we'll continue to grow that out. We've got a bit more to do, but we're putting all of Global's environments and our partners' environments into this, and that just gives a really broad spectrum. So if you're roadside or rail or shopping centres or theme parks or offices, all of those, cinemas, all of those can be purchased programmatically. Yeah,
it's very exciting to see this evolution of this sort of, traditional brand channel and seeing all this technology roll out. So this is obviously, you've had this going since last year. Where do you see this going? Like, what sort of new innovations do you think will happen in the next couple of years? There's a lot of exciting stuff that can be done here.
Yeah, absolutely. And as with any technology, you need all of the elements to come together.
Yeah.
So one of the things we're working with is helping DSPs to integrate the outdoor element more effectively into their own platforms, because they've got systems that are set up for online and need a bit of differentiation for outdoor. But as we're seeing that grow, I think that there is no doubt that people are going to begin to realise that this is a long-term channel against which they can plan. I still think there will be an opportunity and a real long-term market for people who know that they want a campaign in August and they want to use some classic inventory and they want to book ahead and they want that guaranteed. That's absolutely there, but this is a real new opportunity to be that much more flexible.
Go in real time. Brilliant stuff.
Going real time. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Mungo. That was brilliant. Thanks for that overview on the DAX platform and obviously on the overall digital out of home ecosystem as well. So thank you for coming in today.
Absolute pleasure. Nice to be here.
And we'll see you next time on Trail Talk TV. Thanks.